Let's get into today's Omni-Fi original. Crash landing wasn't the worst part. The worst part was each of them needing something the world couldn't provide.
Impact. Always impact first. Then the screaming. Then the silence. Captain Elena Vasquez groaned, tasting blood and ozone. Her head felt like it had been stuffed with packing foam. Around her, the shuttle's emergency lights cast long, bloody shadows across the twisted metal. Threx, the Kren ambassador, had managed to wedge himself into the cockpit's reinforced crash position. For arms braced against the dashboard, amber eyes wide with surprise rather than fear. "This," he rumbled, "is not how I planned to visit a new world."
The rear of the shuttle was a different kind of disaster. Lyra of the Tidespun Weave lay on the deck, her iridescent wings bent at an unnatural angle. Bioluminescent veins pulsed erratically against her pearlescent skin, and XA7, the Forgeborn AI, had detached one arm unit from its chassis, now using it to patch a sparking console with molten metal. "Atmosphere analysis," Lyra gasped, her voice a melody of pain. "Helium-methane concentration, 12%. Insufficient for respiration." The words hung in the air like poison. Another survival equation added to the growing list of problems.
The exterior door hissed open onto a world that hated them. Gravity was wrong, 1.3 g, enough to make human joints ache, but nowhere near the 2.3 g Kren needed. The sky burned with twin suns, painting the landscape in shades of orange and violet. Tall, crystalline trees jutted from soil that shimmered with metallic compounds. And the air, sweet and heavy with an edge of sulfur. "This world," Threx said, his voice careful, "is not designed to welcome guests." Elena stepped out, boots crunching on crystalline soil. Survival school kicked in. Assess, adapt, overcome. The galaxy's motto. The first predator came at dusk. 6 legs, chitinous plates, and mandibles that could shear a Kren in half. It moved with impossible speed, a blur of motion in the violet twilight. Threx roared, a sound that shook the very air, and the creature paused. "Not worth the fight," he muttered, though Elena could see the warrior's instinct warring with diplomacy. It would be a messy victory. The retreat was almost as terrifying as the attack. This world wasn't just hostile, it was actively testing them. How much pressure before they broke?
Night brought new challenges. The temperature dropped rapidly, and the crystalline trees seemed to hum with energy. Lyra struggled to breathe, her bioluminescent veins dimming. "My lungs," she whispered. "They protest this air." XA7 had found a cave, its entrance camouflaged by the local flora. "Shelter analysis," the AI stated. "Temperature will stabilize at -15 degrees Celsius within 2 hours." Elena helped Lyra inside, the Silphari's weight surprisingly light. "You're fading," Elena said, the concern raw in her voice. "We need to find you proper atmosphere." The words hung between them, another countdown with no clear solution.
Threx had found something promising, a geothermal vent near the crash site. Steam rose from fissures in the ground, carrying minerals and heat. But it wasn't enough. "I need protein," he admitted, something no Kren warrior would admit lightly. "My muscles ache without it." Elena nodded. "I can find food. Humans can survive on almost anything." The words were both comforting and terrifying. She remembered survival school on a frozen moon where she'd eaten nutrient paste for weeks. Humans could adapt, yes, but adaptation had limits. And they were pushing against them.
The breakthrough came from XA7, as breakthroughs often did. "I have analyzed the crystalline soil composition," the AI announced. "It contains trace helium deposits and metallic compounds that can be processed into mineral nutrients." Lyra's wings fluttered. "Can you create an atmosphere filter?" "Yes," XA7 replied. "But it would require rare earth elements, not present in this soil." Elena stared at the crystals around them. "What if we used these?" The suggestion hung in the air, another impossible solution to their impossible problems. Threx grunted. "Desperation breeds innovation. The Kren way." Work began in earnest. Elena gathered the needed crystals, her hands raw despite gloves. Threx hauled heavy rocks to reinforce their shelter. Lyra directed XA7 with delicate precision, her knowledge of biotech and atmospheric science unparalleled. Think of it as elegant growth patterns, she instructed, her voice stronger now. We are not building machines. We are coaxing an environment into being. The Silpharize metaphor was apt. They weren't dominating this world, but negotiating with it. The first test came when Lyra breathed the filtered air through XA7's rudimentary device. Her bioluminescent veins pulsed a steady blue again. We are breathing, she whispered. We are surviving. But survival wasn't enough. They needed to escape. Elena had jury-rigged a distress beacon from shuttle components, but it needed power. Power required minerals that XA7 needed to consume. A zero-sum game, the AI stated plainly. My operational requirements conflict with your survival requirements. Threx growled, a sound that shook the ground. Then we changed the game. The Kren had taken to hunting the local fauna, small, armored creatures that moved in herds. Not ideal prey but protein nonetheless. Elena found edible tubers that grew near the geothermal vents. And Lyra? Lyra had begun experimenting with local flora. Cross-species biotech blooming in her hands like impossible flowers. The storm came without warning. Violent winds howled through the crystalline forest, lightning arcing between trees. Their shelter held barely. The atmospheric pressure is dropping, XA7 reported as the winds intensified. Temperature falling. Lyra shivered despite the filtered air. My biotech devices are failing. Elena checked her emergency suit, degrading fast. We need to activate the beacon now. But the storm was too powerful. They watched helplessly as their escape plan was torn apart by forces beyond their control. This world, Threx rumbled, does not wish us to leave. The words carried the weight of prophecy. When the storm passed, they found something unexpected. The lightning had struck a massive crystal formation, fracturing it in a way that revealed something beneath, not rock but metal. Ancient. Alien. The remnant. Lyra breathed, her wings trembling. This is its work. The crystal formation hummed with energy, a perfect power source. XA7 analyzed it, his optical units glowing. This will power the beacon and provide mineral nutrients. But there was a cost. The energy discharge will create an EMP. All unshielded electronics will be destroyed, including XA7's primary systems. A worthy sacrifice, Threx stated, placing a hand on the AI's shoulder. You have given us much. The Forgeborn looked at the Kren, then at the crystal formation. I have downloaded my consciousness to 3 backup units. Enough. The rescue came not as a ship but as a beam of light. Conclave vessels detected the beacon's modified signal. As they lifted off in the rescue shuttle, Elena looked back at the wrong planet that had almost been their tomb. Threx sat beside her for arms crossed, amber eyes fixed on the crystalline landscape shrinking below. We were stronger together, he stated simply. That is the lesson of this place. Lyra leaned against the window, her wings folded gracefully. Or perhaps, she mused, the lesson is that the universe provides what we need when we need it most. XA7, now operating from a smaller unit, monitored their ascent. Statistically improbable, the AI noted. But not impossible. Elena smiled. The galaxy was full of wrong planets. But with the right crew, no world was truly inhospitable.